Hello, everybody. Welcome today. Today, I want to talk about children who need time alone, not to be on their own all the time. I mean, just time out, time on their own. And I want you to look at your kids and have a look at who is who. You will find there will be a mixture. There will be extroverts and introverts, and there will be children who are one or the other more, and then children who are a mixture of introvert and extrovert. And you can usually tell the introvert one if you've got a parent who's introverted. There's a possibility you will be too if you have other family members who are like this. The introvert needs time on their own. They need to be away from people. They need this time because introverts charge up by being on their own. That's how they cope actually in the world here. They have to go away on their own for a while and be in that stillness. They recharge and then they come back and join the group. Extroverts are the opposite. Extroverts need the people because they get their charge from being with other people. That's where they get their feed. So extroverts will need to be out and about with other people. And they were the people who were really struggling with COVID and all the lockdowns. The introverts probably coped with it quite well, and it was probably quite good for them as a bit of time out. But the extroverts were like going a little crazy there because they couldn't get to socialise as much. Your child will need to be having little spaces where they can go. And this is really important that you create this for a child who needs to be alone sometimes. I'm not talking alone when they've had a temper tantrum or you've had a fight or they're upset. I'm talking about just general, normal daily life when they need to be alone. So try and set up some areas. Now, if that child is lucky enough, they might have their own bedroom and that can be their space. And you can let them close their door if they want to, and you can knock at their door and ask if you can come in. That's fine. Even when they're little, it's fine to do that. I think it'll be quite safe, especially once they're getting older. You can also make sure that they have other spaces. Maybe you have a cubby somewhere. It can be in the house or a little place in the house that they go, maybe a lounge that's not used very much. They like to go and sit near the couch and do their thing. It might also be that outside they've actually got a cubby house, not just inside that you've made one up, but they've got one outside and they can go and sit in the cubby. These are the children who will often climb trees and just sit in the tree and want to be away from everybody. They're the children who like to get to the top of the fort and just be still and be there. When you give these children the time, you will find that they are more balanced, and that's why you want to try and do this. And they'll also need to get away from their siblings sometimes this way, or their siblings, and that's okay. They're not being rude, they're not being nasty or mean. They just need time on their own. And when they get this time on their own, when they come back into the group, they're much better. And don't see it as a personal attack on anyone or you. They don't want to be with people. It's not that. It's just that they can't be with people all the time because they go a little bit insane. They can't cope with it, and it makes them feel distressed. Make these areas for these kids, and also do it on another level. For example, don't talk to them all the time. I know that sounds really weird, but don't be at them all the time. Don't speak to them and then expect them to talk to you all the time. If they're wanting to be quiet, let them be quiet. They don't feel like talking, you can say, do you feel like talking? And they go, no, not really. And then you just leave them. Let them play their video game, let them read their books, let them play with their Lego, whatever they want to do. They don't always want to talk. Introverts aren't great talkers. They're very good once they know you, they'll open up, but they don't want to talk all the time. They're more quiet people. So allow them not to have to talk to you, and don't penalise them for not talking or being really social. You'll find too that in a big social setting, if you put the limelight on them, they don't like it. They'll get really embarrassed and they won't be able to sing the song. So don't make a child who needs time alone do the non-alone things like being in a group singing on their own or having to play the piano for someone. If they want to do it, they do it. But if they're not comfortable with it, don't push them. Children who like to be alone are usually very creative as well. They like to make things, do things, get in their own little fantasy world. They like to construct things for their room and have things sometimes a certain way. And you just let them do that because it makes them happy. If they have to share a room with someone, try and get like a designated area that's theirs. And they might be quite territorial about their toys or their belongings. And so the person who's living in the room has to abide by those boundaries, and they're good boundaries to have sometimes. There's the shared stuff, and then there's your stuff and my stuff. There's 3 groups, and the introvert will be very clear about which group is which, and they won't like people trespassing. I feel they're quite deep thinkers and people who mull over things, and that's why they also need time to make decisions or to process. They might not process if they're not on their own, so allow them to be on their own. And I'm not talking about being alone. That's different. Leaving a child alone when they don't want to be is completely different to letting a child have their own time. You might find that if you go away in a group, in a caravan or on a holiday, you'll need to let them go and sit down the beach on their own and play with the sand or something, and just keep an eye on them. They might not want to go to all the outings, and if they're able to be old enough to stay home as a teenager, let them with a mobile phone. If you don't feel good about that, one of the adults stays home with them. It's a different sort of child, but it's a special child in a really good way. And as long as this child gets time on their own and their little place, their little happy place they can go to where no one else is in, they will actually cope very well in their life, and they will cope much better. It doesn't mean they're not coping, it's just a different nature. If you are an introverted person listening to this, you will understand your introverted kids. If you're an extroverted person, you might not have as much understanding of them. And that's what I want you to do, to understand that they're not socially, like not being able to do things. They're just more introverted and like to spend more personal time. And honestly, when they get their little recharge, they'll come back and be as happy as anything because they got their recharge. So allow your children to be on their own when they want to be, in a safe environment, obviously, but allow them to do that, and don't force them to be social when they need to just switch out from the world and be in their own little place, because that's going to be the healing for them. That's how they're going to feel better later. And some children need a lot of time on their own, some children not so much, and you'll know your kids quite well. The other thing is you might need to explain to their siblings and even the other parent, if the other person doesn't really understand their father or mother, what's going on and why you need to let them have this time. And they will end up being a very balanced and happy child. And also you're teaching them how to cope in the world, that who they are and what they need to make them feel good, and that's time out from the world. Okay, that's what I want to say this week. So enjoy your little bit introverted child, I think, and don't think it's a bad thing. The introverts of this world get a lot done when they're mulling and thinking and creating. So they're actually people who are the quiet achievers, I feel, of the world. So I actually see it as a really good thing. So I'm sending you lots of love and light, and I hope you have fun with your kids this week.